back to New Hanover News. We will now go live to Catherine, who is currently in Amberino, talking to some disgruntled locals in regards to the recent and devastating snowstorm up there. Over to you, Catherine.
Yes, Nicola. I am here on the pathways out of Amberino. Me and my escort are talking with some locals who are coming down from the mountains. Ma'am, how did you feel about coming across those snow caps?
It's fucking cold. It's fucking cold, and it just ain't right. We as humans are not meant to live in weather like this. It just ain't right.
I see. Well, ma'am, it is winter. And winter usually lasts until about May here in Amberino. Are you planning on staying or going further down to Lemoyne?
Hell nah, we go into Lemoyne. It's nice and warm down there, and at least if my mittens get moist, it's 'cause I was catching crawfish.
Ah, I see. Well, according to the local veteran who complains about his lumbago and the Farmer's Almanac, we are actually going to be seeing more snow as it comes through further down into New Hanover and out of the mountains of Amberino. How would you feel about that, ma'am, if you saw snow coating the plains of Valentine?
Then I would just reckon that hell done froze over.
As you can see, Nicola, a lot of people are not feeling the snow, but according to a local school marm, she is having a lot more fun staying at home than having to teach the children of Valentine. Back to you.
Thank you, Catherine. And now over to Jackie with the sports. Jackie?
Thanks, Nicola, but I don't watch sports. Hi, everybody. We're coming to you live from an undisclosed hotel location in Louisiana.
This is a cameo game, or at least it is according to a witness protection program.
Well, it can't be witness protection program now if we've told everybody, so...
Shit, we're gonna have to come up with a new name.
Yep.
But yeah, we're coming to you. Jackie's coming to you currently from snowy Louisiana. I'm in rainy California, rainy Georgia. I was thinking about. I was like, California. Sorry, I'm in Georgia. It's
And
raining.
this just in, Catherine has memory loss. She has no idea where she is.
And it's snowing in Scotland, isn't it?
It was.
it was.
It's cleared up now, so it's just
What's that
Scotland.
like? What's that
Scotland.
like?
Scotland just being Scotland, so
What's it like to not have snow? Is it nice? I feel like I'll never see the end of this.
you will get through it.
Yeah,
You'll
that's
get
all.
through it.
You'll kick that snow's ass.
I remember back in the old days, 4 days ago, when I was making a joke about Louisiana being like Coulter, and then we got down to -15, and I went, I was
I
just
don't know-
kidding, guys. That
I
wasn't a
don't know
challenge.
what. I don't know why, but I feel tempted to say this, and it makes no sense. Kick it in the ass, Seabass. Again, no reason why. But hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
If you're in the United States or in the UK, you may have seen some of the stories or some of the stuff, but currently there is a really big, I guess it's a polar vortex that released. And so most of the majority of the middle of the United States is cold, while the outside, like the West Coast, so California and Washington and Seattle, and then the East Coast with like Georgia and Virginia and Maryland, all of that is warmer winter temperatures than the middle of the United States. So I saw someone describe it as a 7-Eleven burrito or a hot pocket that you put into the microwave for the time that it told you to, and the middle is still cold. So, so yeah, that's essentially what the United States looks like currently. And there are a lot of issues that are happening with states that aren't used to that type of weather. So just a little bit of, Jackie is currently stuck at her work. She works at a hotel in Louisiana, and she got picked up. You got picked up by your boss, didn't
Oh,
you?
I actually drove in. I actually managed to get here, which was fun in and of itself because I have a little bitty
Mhm.
car trying to drive in the ice and snow, which thankfully by the time I got here, it had just started. But my vehicle's been pretty much parked here for going on 3, 4 days now. Which by the time
Mhm.
this airs, hopefully we will be completely out of this. So that's awesome. But
Yeah.
there is one thing. If anyone has been following me on Twitter, they're already well aware with my current mindset in regards to everything that's going on. What we're seeing right now is a complete breakdown of like systems that should have been in place. And understandable, there's some things that we can't have in place because the upkeep of it would just be more expensive than what it's worth. So we don't have like snow plows. We don't have like salt everywhere because like it's just not necessary in a lot of the
Yeah.
time. But a lot of people are talking about things that are going on in Texas, and they're completely ignoring Louisiana and even parts of Mississippi. And while it is devastating to Texas, and I'm not trying to take away from what's going on in Texas, the only thing that I urge is whenever you see things like this, I just hope that people keep the surrounding areas in their thoughts and prayers and everything as well, because
Mhm.
we're all hurting and we're all suffering, and right now we're all very scared, and that's the main part about the whole situation is we're all scared.
Yeah.
And like I got lucky in the regard that I work at a hotel, but there are some people that aren't as lucky. So businesses have either been shut down or, which I mean, a lot of them just got back on their feet because of all the COVID stuff. And so now they're shut down for going on 4 days, and by the time this is said and done, they may be shut down for up to a week. And that's a pretty big deal. Grocery stores right now are like they're running out of food, and we can't get food trucks in. I'm getting reports all over Louisiana of bridges that are falling apart. People's houses are like collapsing in because our infrastructure was designed for heat and humidity, not no humidity or low humidity and ice. Our infrastructure is just not designed for that.
Yeah.
So, understandably, like this is a really good joke for a lot of people, but understand that this is actually really scary for a lot of people. And sometimes you can take the joke just a little bit too far, and right now a lot of people are taking it too far.
Mm.
And that's it.
Yeah, it's like I live in Georgia, so us getting there we go. My computer was making weird noises. Um, so in Georgia, getting snow is rare. I think the last time that we got snow was about 3 to 4 years ago. And it snowed for like a couple of days, like 3 or 4 days, and the snow started to melt, but we still kept some of the ice. But places that like in Atlanta, there's a lot of hills in Atlanta because it's up there in a little bit higher elevation. So one of my friends, she was trying to drive home, but her car could not get up the hill.
Mhm.
And so it kept sliding back. So there was a lot of people that got into car accidents and things like that. So there was a lot of abandoned cars just on the road until somebody could get them unstuck or until the ice had melted enough that people could safely get home. Thankfully, where I live currently, there's not a lot of like hills and things like that. So getting into my car and going where I need to go was easy. They had closed down the schools and things like that, but it was for those 3 days they had closed down the school because there's a lot of kids that walk to school.
Mhm.
And so it just wasn't safe because it was very, very, very cold. So yeah, it's tough, especially for living in the South if you're not used to cold weather. Thankfully, I lived in places that had snow, so I knew how to drive in the snow. There are a lot of people that don't.
No.
And there's a lot of people that don't, have like proper winter clothes because it just doesn't get that cold down here.
Mm-mm.
The coldest that it does get to is, in the 20s, but no snow, just cold and rain, and then the sun comes out and it melts the ice. But it's been kind of ridiculous for the
And
last couple of days.
and
Hmm.
and honestly, that's a lot of people. Sorry, I bumped my microphone. But a lot of people joke about like, oh, they predicted snow, so they shut things down. And like, yeah, it is really funny to watch people freak out. And honestly, it's been funny for me to watch people run to the store and panic, knowing that it's going to be a day. But it's like, this is why. This right here, what's happening right now, is why. This is why we shut down schools. This is why we rush to the store and buy in bulk things that we shouldn't, just
Mhm.
in case things like this happen. Does it happen every time? No. Should we panic every single time? No. But this is why. The last time I can remember a storm of this caliber coming through was back in, it was either 94 or 97. And we had a really bad ice storm that came through. And I can remember being a kid walking around because of course like when you're a kid like this kind of stuff is really really fun, you know. But I remember being a kid and walking around and seeing these huge icicles hanging off of our power lines and just being in awe over it. And
Mhm.
truth be told, even as an adult, I can't help but find the beauty in it because there is something oddly beautiful and a little eerie, because it's very quiet because no one's on the
Yeah.
interstate, no one's moving much, like, and so there is an odd sort of beauty to it, but at the same time, it's such a scary thing. And like, I started to get angry when there was that 100-car pileup in Texas, and a few people lost their lives, and very quickly it turned into a joke and turned into a meme. And it's like, I understand the internet is a savage place, but like, come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, not a lot of places down here. Um, like if you go to the mall and stuff like that, you will find winter clothes, but if you go to the their hardware store, they don't sell snow tires or snow chains. It's
Mm-mm.
just, you know,
We have no use
because
for them.
yeah, I mean, the only thing that we would probably have use for tires that have good traction is if down here it rains a lot during the winter. That's our snow. While northern states and some other states may get snow, it's just rain.
Hmm.
It just shows up as rain. So things get very muddy. So your car will get stuck in the mud.
Hmm.
And so the most that they'll probably be able to do for you down here would be to give you tires that have good traction.
Yeah.
So you can get out of the mud because there's a lot of people that live in the country that don't have like regular driveways. Their driveways might be gravel driveways, sand driveways, or dirt driveways. And so if your car, goes down it, you will get stuck.
Hmm.
And then their
Exactly.
big car will have to pull you out.
Exactly. And you know, that is one thing I do want to hark on is that is a beautiful thing that I've noticed is whenever disasters happen, and the sad fact is, every single time something happens, there's going to be a political element to it. But
Yeah.
after a while, like your normal average citizen doesn't really, like, we're not necessarily affected by politics. Well, we are and we aren't. So we kind of, especially in Louisiana, we've kind of given up hope that the government's going to step in and do anything whenever anything happens. We saw a perfect example of that when Katrina and Rita came through.
Mhm.
But we've seen people pull together, and we've seen people with tractors and big trucks and like all this stuff come together and help each other out. Like just in the hotel alone, because obviously like I can't stay cooped up in a room, so I've been downstairs even when I'm not working. And I've got people here who drive like the big F-150s, F-250s, and they're getting out and helping people get unstuck. They
Mhm.
are people. I've had one guest come in and he told me that he ran his U-Haul into a ditch and some guy with a tractor happened to spot him and got the tractor out there and helped him get unstuck. And these are perfect strangers.
Yeah.
And so that is one thing that I do love about being, especially in the South, is our ability to pull together and to pull through. I just really wish it wasn't like a disaster that made that kind of stuff happen. I wish we could see that just more in your average everyday life. But
Mhm.
yeah, our ability to pull through. I mean, that's why the Cajun Navy is a thing. Is whenever it floods really bad, the Cajun Navy will come up and they will assist with search and rescues of people that have been lost in the floods or all that. And that's the other thing that a lot of us are worried about is flooding because
Mhm.
the way our river system is designed is to, and because a lot of it has been either man-made or engineered in such a way. um, the way our waterways are designed is when the snow melts up north, it all comes down, flows through our state, and flows out into the Gulf, eventually out into the ocean.
Mhm.
Well, a few years ago, we had a pretty big, just a regular snowstorm that lasted for like 2 days, and and it caused the Red River in Shreveport to flood. What's going to happen when all of this starts to melt? That's one of the reasons why we are so worried is in just my little area alone, we've got the Red River, the Washita, the Mississippi, Beth River, countless, endless rivers. We have so many rivers and waterways moving water constantly, and Louisiana is already well known for flooding. So, what
Mhm.
happens when this melts? That's why we're worried.
Mm.
Yeah. More than likely, what would probably happen is if it once it starts melting, the overflow will go because it'll be not only just your state, it would be everything up above, you
Hmm.
know, when their snows start eventually melting. Hopefully things level off before then, but yeah.
Hopefully. Although I will say, I saw a picture on Facebook. It was 2021 slapping 2020 in the head, and it says, "Now that's how you make people stay at home," which is
Sure.
true. I mean, like I hate to say it, but it's true. Like deadly virus, nah, no big deal. Like this, that, and the other, hurricane, tornado, pfft, whatever. Snow, yeah, that's a really good way to get us all to stay inside.
It's kind of like Mother Nature saying, okay, if you won't listen to your politicians and your governments, your local councils, then I will make you listen. Here's a snowstorm. Stay
Okay,
home.
okay, look, you don't want to stay inside because of a hurricane? Well, maybe this will make you stay inside. Yeah,
Mm.
basically. That's
You thought I
basically,
was, yeah, you thought I was playing, right? No?
nah,
Uh,
bitch, we just getting started.
Psych. Psych.
yeah.
So somewhere there's a deity going, Jesus Christ.
I saw something that I thought was funny. I think you had shared it on Facebook, but it was of somebody in one of those like pond skimmers, for like the swamp, the little airboat, and they were like just riding down the road with it.
Yep, the little
The
fan boats. Hmm.
Yeah, the little fan boat. They were just going down the road, just using it. And I thought that was so funny because I was just,
The funny thing is that actually was
uh
not that far away from me.
I mean, that is one way, I guess, to get over the ice and everything. It's because it's made to go over reeds and stuff like that in the
Hmm.
swamps and water. So, yeah, that's one way.
I never would
Hopefully,
have thought of that, but I was like, why? Why, Louisiana? Why do we have to be so extra about everything we do? Hey, we're gonna have a party that's supposed to celebrate, the beginning of Lent. Let's have Mardi Gras. hey,
They've got they've,
we've got this really deadly hurricane headed towards us. Let's have a hurricane party and name a drink after it. The level of give a damn in Louisiana. Our give a damn busted a long time ago.
uh,
Oh, goodness. But I guess we should we're gonna make an announcement. Oh, yeah. Well, by the time this airs, the live stream would have already happened, so I'm gonna pretend that Mick's live stream was amazing. It was amazing. Woo!
yay!
I thought it was pretty cool that he had that coin that he was gonna raffle off. So hopefully whoever gets it really likes it and doesn't sell it on eBay.
That would
And
be awful.
congratulations to the winner.
Would it be really funny if it was one of us?
Oh, Jesus.
I didn't put anything in for a raffle.
You
I
bought
didn't.
you bought a print, right?
No,
You didn't buy a print this round?
I bought a print first time round.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
me and Catherine.
yeah, I didn't get one first time around, but I got one for this one. So I have Roger, Rob, and Mick. I needed Kylie's and Mia's, and I didn't get
Did you get Ben's?
no, I didn't get Ben's. I
I got
didn't get Ben's, Mia, Kylie, or Mr. I want to call him Mr. Panasic. I didn't get his either, and I'm a little disappointed. But at the time, I didn't have the money, so whenever Kylie or Mia does theirs again, because I know they had to cancel their second ones because they got busy. If they do another one closer to the summer or a little bit later, then I would definitely like to do it, and I would totally love to get one from Howard, and if Ben does his again, I'd like to get one as well.
I would love for all of them to do their signing again. Like kudos to Roger Clark and Rob Weedoff for doing their signing multiple times. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like everyone has it, and then Steve J. Palmer is amazing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I didn't get Steve's either.
that Steve is the only one that I haven't been able to get, but
Yeah.
just
I haven't got Steve either.
what these guys do to make these live signings happen is just incredible. It's like watching Ben, and he was like, "Yeah, it's like everyone's sitting here watching me do my taxes," and it's like, yeah, kind of.
You know, at the end of the day, it's supporting the arts in a way, because like we've already highlighted as well, like a lot of the RDR cast are unable to work at the moment because of the current situation that the entire globe is being affected by. So every little bit helps.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it is buying an autograph, at the end of the day,
Well, you think about this. It's just like with musicians.
yeah,
When they make music, but they don't necessarily make a whole bunch of money off of the music that they make. Where they make their money is touring, merch, some of the CD sales you'll see, but also like these signings, these people going to these events and buying like posters and shirts and buying autographs and all this stuff. Like that's where they make their money. And the same thing in a way for a lot of, like, especially like these. I don't want to. I'm not trying to say one is more important than the other, but like people like Johnny Depp don't have to worry. You know, people like Christopher Walken don't really have to worry.
Yeah.
But like the people that spend a majority of their time, say, on a stage, or they've done like just work through like video games or some of these movies that aren't quite as popular as some of the others, they get theirs through conventions, through autograph sales, merch to a degree, like merch of their own, not like merch of whatever they did. But yeah, and then like the way some of these video games are set up, they don't even necessarily get royalties off of every single purchase. If I'm understanding that correctly.
I mean, I think I seen online, didn't one of the actors from The Office earn an absolute fortune on Cameo?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember seeing something about that.
Yeah.
That's not an ad for Cameo, by the way, but
We are an
that
ad for
does
Cameo, let's be honest.
that that does help, like artists and that as well. So
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why
support
we push it so
support
far.
support the arts, everybody. Support the arts.
Nicola's been drinking again.
I don't drink
I
much,
don't
Um,
but
drink.
uh, how dare you suggest a drink?
but yeah, yeah, that's why we kind of push, helping them out, because um it's also, like, it's tough for a lot of people. I mean,
Mm,
even if you're like a really famous person, you probably now have to stay home, work and things like that. Like, there's a person that I follow on Instagram who their work basically had to be called off because it was like inclement weather, but before that they were like, um there was no jobs, like there was nothing coming in, there was nothing going out, because they just, COVID had basically like suspended a lot of things until they could become compliant. Because as somebody who's studying film, you do a lot of up close work with a lot of different people. Like, you are side by side with somebody, hoisting up like lights or setting up like cameras and things like that, working on like building sets and stuff. So there's very little that you can do for 6 feet apart, unless you were like, everything had already been preset by one person, but that's not going to happen. If it's all been set up by like two or three people and ready to go, and then, no, in the film business and like theater, time is money. So, if you take too long, the studios are going to look at you like, why? And you're like, well, we're trying to be COVID compliant. It's like, we're going to shut it down. It's okay.
Exactly.
We don't
And
need this right now.
then, on the other side of that little coin is you have, like, you take the actors out, and like you said, the people that do the lights, people that write, the people that do sound, the people that do all this, now they're having to search for jobs and things
mm.
like that because, like, set designers, well, if they don't have a set to design,
Not even just that, like even people that work the ticket booth, the ushers, the janitorial staff.
yeah.
It's
Well, that's
and
like
it's
one of our friends, Kelsey. She works in a movie theater,
mm,
and
Mhm.
she works in the projector room and all this stuff. And when COVID first started, she was laid off to a degree because movie theaters had to shut down. They weren't COVID compliant, and so she was unemployed for months trying to make ends meet. And then she ended up running into an issue with her like unemployment. So she wasn't even getting an unemployment. So she, like, all those benefits that they threw out to for people that were unemployed, some
Mhm.
people weren't even able to get those.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's
I know my friends and I, we have got tickets to see a drag show in Glasgow.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be in May, but the date could be debatable because obviously the current situation that we're in.
Mm,
But all that we're reminding ourselves are we have tickets. When we'll get to see the show, it might be the day that we're meant to go see. It might not
Mhm.
be. Who
hmm
knows? But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But
But you got
Yeah.
tickets, and that
it'll it'll
supports the
be
show.
my it'll be my first drag show. So I've been wanting to see a drag show for the longest time. So it'd be the first thing to say as an openly out person now. So
Yay!
and it sounds weird saying that. So
And we love you.
yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, so speaking of shows, I know there were two things we wanted to discuss, one being
Hmm.
Mick again.
Mick is he had released a tweet, basically an announcement of with the theater company that he works for, Pigeon Theater in New York City, in March through the 16th through the 20th. He's going to be starring in a play that I think they're doing it over Zoom, right? I think it's over Zoom.
Mm.
Either that or it's, it's going to be on stage, but they're going to broadcast it, you know, um, with like a link and everything. But I believe it's called The Unsung Hero. And
Mm.
so, yeah, he's going to be in a play, and we're really happy for him because I know that he's itching to get back into acting and everything. So yeah, we're really really excited for him, and that's in March. I bought my tickets. It's $15 for a ticket, and then of course they charge a tax, which is like $2. So about $17 for one ticket. So it's not terribly bad. It's not
Mm.
like, $50 or something like that.
Yeah,
And
so
yeah,
it's not like you're trying to wrangle tickets to see Hamilton. But
yeah. I feel bad for all those people that are just like, yes, finally, I got tickets to go see Hamilton, and then Hamilton was just like, goodbye. But I mean, they put Hamilton on Disney Plus, so you can watch
mm,
it on there. Even though, it's a little bit different watching it on TV than it is being in the
well,
audience.
definitely.
But yeah, he's gonna be in a play, and we're really excited about it. I bought my tickets,
Me too.
and Nicola bought her tickets, and I chose to watch mine on Friday. It's all in the
Yeah.
evening time at
I
7
picked.
p.m. Eastern.
I picked the Friday too.
I haven't gotten mine yet, but that's because I'm waiting to get paid. Once I get paid, I will be buying a Friday evening. So yeah, I'm super excited, and I'm super excited that they've managed to find a way to make this happen. Like, and I'm so excited because it's like we finally get to see Mick act, not
Yeah.
Mick act. Like he's our friend, so it's like yay.
Yay.
Does that make sense? Like I
uh,
want to support them. Like I want to support them, but it's like it's so much. It's different now because it's our friend.
I
well,
think it's
I don't.
just. I think it's just like a basic human thing. Is well, for some people, it's a basic human thing. Some people, that kind of passes over their heads and they're just arseholes. But it's it's kind of like helping each other. It's like just doing the basic human thing. If people are struggling, you're usually taught from a young age to help those that might be not as well off or struggling a little bit,
Mhm.
regardless of what it is, whether they're out of a job or they're struggling to pay rent or whatever.
It's I think for me it was with my parents. They're like, help people out within reason. Like if
Yeah,
you just can't do it, you just can't do it. And
Mhm.
there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with setting a boundary and saying that you can't do it. If they make you feel bad about it, then
that's on them.
that's
I
on them. But yeah.
the way I was raised, it was do what you can and know that it doesn't always have to be money.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, like sometimes it's in the form of being a listening ear or being supportive
True.
or talking about it, or if you can physically do something like say someone's driveway needs to be shoveled in this instance,
Hmm.
like or something like that. So like, even just talking about it and passing the word along,
Mm.
you yourself may not be able to afford a ticket or see the show or whatever, but passing the word along can pass it on to somebody who can afford it, who wouldn't have known
Yeah.
about it otherwise. So yeah, that's why we're always pushing the whole word of mouth is one of the most important tools that you have. So yeah, hardcore.
I mean, that's what they used back in the day before the old social media existed. So
Hmm.
how else do you think stories got passed around from generation to generation?
They
So,
talked about it. Hmm.
mm, that's my TED talk.
There was something else that we wanted to talk about.
Writing.
I think I had already shared the links to both Mick's live streaming that happened on the 21st and this one that's happening in March to our Around the Campfire Twitter page. So we'll probably reshare it since by the time this airs, it will be closer to the end of the month, before February ends. So around there, we'll be starting to go into March when his play is going to be. And it's only running for a couple of days. So March 16th through the 20th, that's about, mm, I want to say, I want to say it's about 5 because it's probably going to have like a pre-show, um, like friends and families and stuff like that. So they'll probably have like a rehearsal. But yeah, it's the 16th through the 20th, so that's 4 days. That's 4 days, and then after that, it's gone forever.
And even more so, if you want to grab a ticket, you might not be able to attend like any local St. Patrick's Day celebrations. So you can
Oh
celebrate St.
yeah.
Paddy's Day by watching a play. So
There you go.
there's
Yeah,
there's worse ways you could spend St. Paddy's Day if you celebrate St. Paddy's Day.
you can
Exactly.
sell. Yeah. But there was something else. I think we wanted to talk about writing
Hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
that's our the theme of this episode seems to be into cold and entertainment. Cold hard entertainment.
Cold hard entertainment.
Well, there
Yes.
you go. We just named the episode. Awesome. That saves me a lot of work.
Yes.
Love when the
Yes.
episodes just kind of name themselves.
But yeah, I was listening to a mutual that I have on Tumblr who she had started her first podcast. And so she was trying to figure out I had left a comment and told her I really liked the episode because she was like, I want to have people on, but I don't know how to do so. And I told her, I was like, my friends and I record through Zoom and then we upload the audio to Anchor. You already have Anchor, so you can just
And
use Zoom.
and then all you need past that point is a person that it runs on pure chaotic energy that just goes, you know what? I feel like messaging this person and asking them a question. Hey, you want to be on
Yeah.
the podcast? And then later I go, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. So, but she was talking about some of the stories or some of the things that she's been writing. And so because she writes fan fiction and she was talking about a story that she had started like a couple of years ago, maybe a few years ago, where she wasn't going to continue that version. She was going to leave it up though. She wasn't going to delete it, but she had started to revise it. And I thought that that was pretty cool, kind of hearing her process of going through how she had created this character and kind of modeled it a little bit after her, but now this time around, it's still keeping some of the characteristics that she had, but it's less her and more of their own person now, and making other characters, more more than just one dimensional and making them more three-dimensional instead, and kind of, just fleshing things out more now that she's essentially grown as a writer and an artist and things like that, which I thought was interesting because if you go back and you read like your old writing or you read somebody's first writing and then their current writing, and you're just like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
if
I am a
if I look
testament for that.
back if I look back at the old stuff on fanfic.net that I posted, it's still there. But I remember reading it back and thinking, oh,
You know what's funny?
17-year-old me, 18-year-old me thought that this was good. Oh dear.
You know what's
No.
really funny though? I'm actually a living testament to that about how drastically your writing styles can change.
Mm.
Because back when, like, I've always been a writer, always have been. That's what I wanted to be when I was a kid. And I remember being in like first grade, and we had to write poetry, and my poem was the best in the class. And that's not a boast. Like, that was told to me by multiple people. Um, but yeah, that's what I always wanted to do. Was I always wanted to be a writer. But 16, 17, 18-year-old me was hardcore edge lord goth kid who wanted to basically be Anne Rice. And so I go back and read some of the things that I wrote, because I actually did like complete a book when I was in high school, and I went
Mhm.
back and read it, and it's like, that's not me at all. That is me attempting to be Anne Rice. And so while it wasn't necessarily bad, it just wasn't me.
Mhm.
And and then I turned around and wrote my current book, which will eventually be published as soon as the artist finishes the cover. um and it's a western comedy. It's like, that is such a drastic change to edge lord goth kid. Like, if 16-year-old me knew what 31-year-old me was writing, 16-year-old me would have been like, I'm never writing again.
We sound like the goth kids in South Park. Oh, when did you become such a conformist?
Basically, yeah. Like, oh my god, like, I'll
Dude,
have
that's
to.
not goth. That's not
That's not
goth.
goth. What even are you writing? That's not goth. Ugh. But yeah, like, no, one day I'll have to show you some of the writing that I did. I actually was, poetry wise, I was published in three different poetry books. But I don't claim that often because I was 13, and poetry by 13-year-olds is not exactly a deep and thoughtful.
No. Yeah, you can definitely if you've ever read, like, not to say that there aren't, like 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds who can write a compelling story, in to their experiences and things like that. But yeah, you can definitely tell when somebody's young from the plot lines and the things that happen in their story if they're young or
Hmm.
inexperienced.
And a lot of the
Um,
times it does boil down to just a lack of, like, it could be a very good story. It's just, you can tell it's immature.
yeah.
Hmm.
Like there was a story that I had read where essentially the trope, it was a one of those like marriage of convenience, forced marriage tropes. Basically, the the girl had gone to a guy to get some help, because she needed help paying for something for her parents, and he's like, I'll help you, but I can't give you money because whatever, for whatever reason, the bank wouldn't be able to give out loans unless that person was part of a member of the family. And so he and she was like, ugh, I guess I'll marry you. And at that point I was like, okay. But basically the story had continued, and it turned out that, he had given her an out, and the out was that 2 years down the line, if she or he didn't say that they had feelings or loved each other, the marriage had a deadline essentially. If they had told each other that they loved each other, then the marriage would continue. But if they had, hadn't said anything, then the marriage was dissolved. So I was like, okay, well, all right, we're okay now. But So the story continues, and he helps her. He stays true to his word. They get married. It's all a marriage of convenience. And then it come to find out, they both kind of fall in love with each other, but then they think that the other person doesn't love them. And so their marriage, they divorce, the marriage gets annulled and dissolves and all that. And then it's like, okay, um a couple of months later, just they were both like, I love you. And he is like, I love you in their heads. And then a couple of months later, they're treating each other like they've never had any feelings or were married to each other for 2 years. I was just like, I don't understand. As I was just like, you both were like, I love you. It's only been like 2 months since the end of your marriage. And now you're both are just like, I have no feelings for you anymore. Yeah. You know? And so the story just continues on, and it just becomes like this jumble of storylines. Like, they get together, she ends up having children, she ends up getting kidnapped. The guy is just like, oh no, she abandoned our children. She's a terrible mother. And he like, they're not married. They're just kind of tentatively going out. But then he ends up like sleeping with some other girl because she's just like, yeah, she's a terrible mother. Sleep with me. And I'm just like, I don't understand what's happening anymore. And and then the girl comes back and she slaps him and it's just like, I was kidnapped. And he's like, well, I saw pictures of you in like the newspaper, because that was the whole thing. Like, she was kidnapped, quote unquote kidnapped, but then her picture and stuff like that were in like the magazines and newspapers of this fictional world, with the guy who had kidnapped her, acting like they were like a couple, and he was just like, oh, I knew it. She didn't want to be with me and she didn't want these children. And I was just like, I don't understand. I was so confused. And the story basically after that ends with them like, it's like several years later, and the children are now going to like school. They're older, they're in their teenage years. They're like, the guy and the girl are co-parenting, and he's still trying to like go out with her and like apologize for what he did. And she's like, well, I guess I'll give you like the time of day. And the story just ends.
Oh,
And I was
God.
just like, oh my God.
That was such a roller coaster just listening to. I can't even imagine trying to read it.
It was like 50 chapters.
Oh
Like
my
50 God.
God.
50 to 55 chapters of just, I don't understand. That's the general business of me. It was like, I don't understand. But I could tell at this time of the person writing this, because the story had came out, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, maybe 10, 11 years ago. So when I had read it, which was like 6 or 7 years after it had already been published and finished and all that on fan fiction, like, I could tell from reading it that that person was at least high school age, like end of middle school, coming into high school. And they thought that this was what, adult relationships were like, that this is how adults talk to each other and how situations are. And I'm like, I know that the media portrays stuff like that, like normally, like that sounded to me like some 1 or 2 episodes of like Days of Our Lives, or,
Like a
you
Hallmark
know,
movie. Yeah.
yeah, like a Hallmark movie or something like that, something weird, like, I'm a businesswoman who grew up in a small town, and now I gotta go home because of my ailing father for Christmas. And I hate this sexy man who runs who's like taciturn and like mean, and he runs like a farm and a cafe, and I don't like him, but I love my fiance who ignores me. oh no, I've fallen in love with the man in the small town. It's like one of those type of deals, you know? Like those find the meaning of Christmas Hallmark movies.
Mm.
And I couldn't understand it. I was trying I would go back and I would reread parts just to kind of like see where everything kind of fit together. And it was just I don't know.
Mm.
And I was just like, I hope because I don't know if that person went on to continue writing because I didn't check. I just kind of was just like, this will be burned forever into my memory, and I need a break. And I didn't go back and see if they had more stories that they had written, if their stories had become more experienced and like the writing had grown as a person and stuff like that. I didn't know if that would happen. And it was just and yeah, I mean there's a lot of like stories like that, you know, in
I
fan fiction.
I look, I'm gonna bust myself out real hard on this one.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So, when I was 16, I had a job working in a place called TCBY, which is a frozen yogurt thing. It doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I think I got ate by Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's the funny thing is, like around here, Baskin Robbins is also difficult to find. But yeah, um, I don't know exactly what happened, but yeah, bad management, I think. But so we, I say we, me and this girl that I met online, we would write fan fiction for the Willy Wonka movie with Johnny Depp in it. Cause like, and it was a self insert because it
Take me
was
to your chocolate factory.
it was a
Willy
self
Wonka.
it was a self insert because like I was working at a dessert shop and here's Willy Wonka and it's got Johnny Depp in it, so it was like there you go, it's perfect. So my
Lord has
character,
smiled upon us this
Throw me in the
day.
chocolate river.
I actually did write a really good one in a weird way. Mostly I did Johnny Depp fan fiction. I'm just
Uh-huh.
gonna throw that out there now.
Well,
I actually combined Secret Window and the Chocolate Factory together.
so Roald Dahl, Stephen King
Yeah,
together.
yeah, basically,
Okay.
basically.
Okay.
But I actually ended up meeting, like, I'm really, really sad. I still think about her. I ended up meeting like this really, really cool person. Her name was Elizabeth,
Mhm.
and she also wrote Johnny Depp fan fiction. So she would write. She focused a lot more on Secret Window than anything else, and she wrote beautifully. And she was originally from Russia, and she moved here when she was really, really young. The fact that I remember that should tell you just how close we were. Um, but yeah, she was awesome, and like so she called herself, what was it? Willie Rainey, and I was no, she was Morton Wonka, I was Willie Rainey. That's what we called each other. No one can see this, and I don't even think the camera's actually completely picking it up, but I'm blushing so hard because I'm cringing at myself. This
I
is
see
so
it on
bad.
your cheeks. I
Hmm.
see it on your cheeks. My little mouse on here is a little hand, so I'm patting your cheeks.
But yeah, like, um, but of course, being like a self insert and like writing was kind of therapeutic in a way. So I
Yeah.
Mhm.
tended to make everything very happy and like, yeah, there was angst because I mean, I was a fucking teenager. Of course, there was angst. And But
I love angsty fan fictions.
I
I'm a sucker. I am a sucker for
yeah, but this is like
angst.
teenage angst. Like this isn't even the good angst. This is just straight up
Uh,
teenage angst.
yeah.
But so yeah, I wanted to write this character, like my little self insert, who was like perfect in a way.
Yeah.
And then like I can still remember this. I wrote it, I published it because I had the confidence of a 16-year-old, and someone commented Mary Sue. And I didn't know what that meant. So I went and
Mhm.
Googled it. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess technically it was. And at the time, that was such a big insult in the fan fiction world. Like, I don't know if you remember just how chaotic fan fiction was like when you and I were teenagers, but
Mhm.
that was like a war zone was trying to write fan fiction when we were 16. It was a war zone. It was like being passed around on the black market, and you had to be like really careful, and like Anne Rice's lawyers would come get you.
Oh yeah. Like I had started reading fan fiction in like the mid or early 2000s. So I would say about 2003, 2004.
Hmm.
So, I mean, fan fiction has been around for many years before that. It's
Mm,
been around since like I want to say the 40s,
mm,
or even before that, if you want to count some of the things like um, Jules Verne's like stories, are technically fan fiction. um, like Superman and stuff like that. There were stories and things like that that people would write about Superman, and they would kind of like send them out to each other. And just Star Trek
mm.
had fan fiction. They had fan fiction zines and things like that. You could
Wasn't
submit
wasn't the, a
stories.
s- wasn't a Star Trek fan fiction the origin of the Mary Sue trope? I think I read
Um,
somewhere.
it may have been, but I think
Yeah.
it may have been a different one. It may have been like a Star Wars one.
Yeah, it
That's
was something in like a sci-fi genre that essentially was the origin of the Mary Sue trope. For
well,
those that
Yeah.
don't know about the Mary Sue trope, that is essentially, in basic terms, a character who is completely flawless, who is good at everything, and yeah, is generally just a bit of a cardboard cutout with no
hmm
personality.
hmm
Um, that's the basic term for those that don't know the term Mary Sue, those that don't read or indulge in fan fiction. So
Yeah, Mary Sue's perfect in every way.
yeah,
hmm
Um, no issues, no problems. If there are issues and problems, it's because,
It solved
it
like the next chapter.
yeah, it
mm,
solved the next chapter, or it's a like drama and stories is manufactured. You don't have to have drama for your story. Your story could be just everybody's taking it easy. Like that's fine. But if you're gonna have angst and drama and stuff like that, it's always manufactured. It has to be in order for things to work the way you want it, for the
Yeah,
character
like
to grow and things like that.
yeah, like when a character falls in love, they don't have doubts and hesitations about it. They don't question, oh, should I love this person? Is this relationship gonna work? Like normal people do. They're just like, oh, I love you. And then the other person's like, oh, I love you too. And then, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Like you'll have like getting those two characters to essentially um come to terms with their feelings for each other, or to grow as people, or you can have it like the story that I described, where they actually do love each other, and then they pretend like they don't even know each other like 2 months later. So just to get them back together again, like I felt like that was where the story had ended. The story had ended when their marriage dissolved and they're like going on their separate ways. That's where it should have ended. But yeah, Um, but with Mary Sue's and Mary Stew, Gary Stew,
High,
that's the
highly original.
Gary Stews are basically Mary Stews but the guy version. So Gary Stew, Mary Stew. But yeah, back around the 2000s, people were calling everything Mary Stews or Gary Stews because these characters were there was no issues or problems with them. They didn't have any flaws. They were perfect. They were like a polished circle. No, nothing. It's like that picture of SpongeBob where he polished off, his edges and he wasn't a square anymore. He was an oval, shiny sponge. That's usually those type of characters. And there's nothing wrong with writing them. I mean, there's a lot of stories that have Mary Sue's in them. There's a
Mm.
lot of cartoons that have it as well, and a lot of anime and things like that. And
A lot of the old Disney shows and a lot of the old Disney films kind of
yeah,
fall under that trope.
theater,
Mm.
like there are a lot of things that have characters that are inherently perfect. Even if they're not the main character, they're like a side character and they're just perfect in every way. They know what to say, what to do, they have all the solutions. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, it was an insult. It was an insult, especially if you were an inexperienced writer and you wrote something that you were really proud of, like Jackie said, she wrote it, she posted it, and somebody was just like, that character is a Mary Sue, and they pushed up their glasses, and they're just like, I did not agree with your main character. It's like, okay.
Yeah, what I was gonna say before I realized that I was muted and I finished the whole thought process and was like, why is my little square not blinking? Oh, it's because I'm muted because I'm an idiot. Yeah, what I was gonna say is back to your point about Disney movies and everything following that similar trope. That's probably one of the reasons why you do see so many teenagers that write in such a fashion is, well, that's kind of all they've known.
Mhm.
Or alternatively, is like in my situation, I was dealing with a lot of personal issues, and that was the way that I dealt with it, was creating this character that was essentially me living my life, but everything worked out perfectly, or they were perfect, because like she didn't have to worry about flaws. She could have all the confidence in the world. She could do whatever. And so to her to just fall in love, this character that I'd written, for her to just fall in love with no issues and no doubts, that just kind of all flowed together.
Mm.
So like I don't know, it's I can't really some of it is really like some of them are obviously like really stupid and some of them are badly written, but
Mhm.
you kind of have to applaud the fact that they still had the confidence to do that when so many people sit there and go, I don't want to do that. And
Yeah.
like, because that takes a lot, even when you're a kid and you have very little life experience to make you question otherwise.
It's always just a really personal thing because even if it's, putting something down on a canvas, making music or that, if you're making something personal that's like comes from like within, it sounds so philosophical, but it's true.
Mhm.
If it means a lot to you, whether it's, a batch of cookies or, a mixtape like made in your garage, it's to then show it and share it with people and to get any potential feedback. It's nerve-wracking.
Well, I mean, and that's like I can remember, God, it feels like it was so long ago now, but the first, like when we first aired the first episode of our podcast,
Yeah.
Mhm.
leading up to it, I was super, super excited. But then it came time to actually push, publish. And
Mm.
that's when I got really, really nervous because it was like this was uncharted territory for
It
all of
still
us.
is. It
It,
still
it still
is.
is. Although at this point, I like to think that we're sort of experts on this. Um, or at the very least, we're not amateurs anymore. Um,
Novices is
eh,
the next upgrade from noob, I would
yeah,
say. So
yeah. But we were like charging headlong into absolutely uncharted territory with a bunch of people that we didn't at the time really know, and Mick going, "Yeah, you can do it," and and that was it. And so that was one of the reasons why we were all just so shocked when we got the reception that we did. And
Mhm.
it was like, ah, yes, maybe we can do this. Maybe this isn't a bad idea. And so after that, once like the initial nerves of the first one, like it wasn't as nerve-wracking after that, but it's like I still get a moment of, should I really publish this? Like there are
Mhm.
so many episodes that I've almost just completely gotten rid of. I just outed myself again. Um, My bad. Yeah, there's a few episodes. There's a few episodes that almost got lost, because I wasn't quite sure about or wasn't quite proud of. The Halloween episode was a good one. The when I did the full editing with layers and ghost voices and all of that, I was so proud of it until I went to hit publish, and then I was like, nope, never mind. I changed my mind. I don't want to publish this anymore. Oops, sorry guys, it got lost. I don't know what happened.
Well,
Weird.
the joys of having a creative mind. If you have a creative mind, you're usually very self-critical
Mm,
and self-doubtful. You can make something, spend hours at it, whatever it be, and you look at it and you think, that's not how I pictured it in my head.
yeah.
Oh.
Honestly, you
But
know what my newfound philosophy is? My newfound philosophy in a lot of life has turned into, fuck it, let's see what happens. Like honestly, that is how I've lived my life. It's just fuck it, let's see what happens.
I mean,
It's
I can't remember what it was I mentioned on Twitter. I think it was last week. Um, but I was talking about the so-called perfume bottle that I made in fifth year art class.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh dear. I Yeah, that was hideous. That was such a hideous creation because it was basically the part of the module of that year was product design, and me and my infinite wisdom at 16 thought, I'm gonna do a perfume bottle inspired by coral. Well, it turned out, in better terms, it turned out looking like dog shit. But it looked nothing. It was bad enough before it was painted, but when it was painted, it looked even worse. It looked like colored dog shit. To put it in nicer terms, I know I'm being very kind to myself. But then the following year, I don't know why I decided to take art again, but the choices you make as a teenager. But I remember my teacher coming up to me and saying, "Oh, we've still got some of your work from the year before with Mrs. Macbeth's class. Do you want it?" And so I looked through it, decided to keep some stuff. And my teacher said, "Oh, what about your perfume bottle? We've still got that." And I instantly said, "No, just smash it, burn it. Just no. I don't want that lump of well, I didn't say I didn't want that lump of shit to the teacher, but
I would
that
have.
was my thought process. I wouldn't have said that to Mr. Ward. I was a goody two shoes at school. I think that was before he left for Antarctica. He, he
Hang on.
he got the perfume bottle and he's like, oh, this is nice, Nicola. I'm going to put it right here. And then he goes to Antarctica.
No, let me finish that. I know that was a bizarre segue,
You could say that, yeah.
but he literally did go to Antarctica. He won a photography competition, and the trip was to go or use some of the prize money to go to Antarctica. I know we found it weird too, considering he stayed in New Zealand for part of that vacation trip. It's like, why not just go to New Zealand? Why go to Antarctica? Why are you being weird?
Look, honestly,
Yeah,
Nicola,
he went to Antarctica and left us with a substitute teacher that just sat at her desk and didn't engage at all. And I remember thinking, so he's off with the penguins, and we're sat here.
Look, Nicola, have I told you recently just how much I love you? Like, honestly, because your stories, they always start off. So many of your stories have done this, and it cracks me up. And I don't think you understand just how funny some of these things are, because you will be like, "Oh yeah, so I went down to the street and I got some pasta."
It'd be like something completely mundane, and then it goes, oh, so I was walking down the street, and then a UFO landed.
Yeah, like you're like, yeah, so I was walking down the street to get pasta from the store because you don't say pasta like a normal person. It's pasta.
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 And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, and then this herd of cattle just came stampeding down the street towards me, and the only thing that I had to save me was this bottle of gin and a lighter. And I'm like, what?
Like,
Like
where's the correlation in these things?
so many of your stories do that, and we're just left going, what?
Like, oh, so I was on a boat trip, and then a whale jumped out, but then attached to said whale was a shark boogie boarding off said whale or something.
Exactly. Like so many of your stories do
How
that.
that would happen. That would be a thing to see. That would be a viral thing to see, you know, a shark boogie boarding on a whale. But, you know,
I mean, you're not
I digress.
wrong. You're
But
not wrong. And then earlier, before
weirder
we started,
things have been seen on the planet. So
I mean,
I
you're
just
not
want to
wrong.
know though, did your teacher come back from Antarctica?
Yes,
You
he
said
did.
okay.
he
Because
did.
you ended it with, yeah, he went to Antarctica, and I
I
was just
remember.
like, he lives there now?
No.
The perfume bottle was so bad, he had to move to Antarctica.
It's like, I gotta get out. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Cursed out him.
See what you didn't know. While to you, your perfume bottle looked like a pile of shit. To him, that was the item that fulfilled a prophecy. He's like,
No.
it has begun. I must now go to the penguins.
I mean, I just briefly remember when he announced that, you know, he's taking that sabbatical for about a month or two, and that a supply teacher would be coming in, and he says, "Oh, because I'm going to Antarctica," and we all just looked at him like, "What? Antarctica? You're going to the bottom of the planet? Why? You're an art teacher." I can understand maybe a geography teacher, and it's like, oh, I won this photography competition, and you know, I've always wanted to see Antarctica, and it's like, okay, man, you do your thing. Okay. But yeah, I had an art teacher who went to Antarctica.
And there you go, another Nicholas story.
That is a true story.
That's what makes it better and also worse. And like I said, I'm convinced that painted pile of dog shit, quote unquote, that you did was like you fulfilled some weird prophecy, and he's like, I must go meet with the emperor penguins to fulfill this prophecy now. And you gave him a side quest item.
Well, I'll let y'all into a little secret. I was planning on being my last Horcrux, but I decided against it because it would be far too easy to find and far too easy to destroy because, like I said, it was like Rainbow Turd. So, in fact, I think I painted it blue and yellow from what I can remember, or I can't remember. I was like 16 and I thought I was the shit, so.
Well, you thought you were the shit, so you created the shit.
Exactly.
God. And then I feel like we should make mention of the fact, just because it blew your mind so much, is we figured out a way to completely mess with Nicola's brain by using 2 words.
Yes.
Space ghetto.
For reference, it was something we saw online.
Huh?
I think it was a Scottish tweet, because Scottish Twitter in itself is its own subculture.
It's its own beast.
That is the glorious thing to see, even for for native Scots, but it's even better hearing non-native Scots trying to recite Scottish Twitter, because it's endearing, because they're trying to do the accent and it's cute, but and they just can't get it right, but they're trying, so we accommodate, we don't judge. But
we're trying our best, Nick. So we're trying our best.
But yeah, the question was, well, not really a question. It was a statement saying, I just realized if you say space ghetto in an American accent, it sounds like Spice Girl. And so Jackie and Catherine recited it.
No, see, that's the best part.
my-
You sat
my-
there. You read
brain-
it first. You read it out loud, fully in your accent, and you're like, no, it doesn't. And then you did it again in an American accent, and you went, whoa.
Yeah, it tripped whatever wires are still working in my brain. So yeah, so that was a weird one. Test it out for yourselves. This is a home project for everybody.
Space ghetto.
Stop saying that. That's weird.
Space ghetto.
Thinking, Jackie, you're not from my neck of the woods. Unless
Oh,
you
God, she's Scottish.
That honestly reminds me of a line from Blackadder Goes Forth from Stephen Fry. It's the episode. Oh, I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's the episode where they're doing a vaudeville show for the troops, and Hugh Laurie dons up in drag to masquerade as a female singer, and Stephen Fry is General Melchett, and he said falls in love with Georgina, and they come up with a whole scheme and blah blah blah, and episode progressed, and then Blackadder comes in. Bladder. But God, I need a nap. But yeah, Blackadder comes in, and like stuff happens. It's like, oh, there's something wrong with your fiance, sir. And then Stephen Fry is like one of the funniest lines that will never not make me laugh. I will get to the point eventually, and here's the point coming, because I know I dragged the ass out of it. But it's like, there's something wrong with your fiance, sir. And Stephen Fry goes, oh my God, she's not Welsh, is she? That will never not make me laugh. And then Blackadder proceeds to say about how she arrived in the trench and then ended up getting blown up by a mine. And then even better, Stephen Fry acting all bereft and, oh, howl, howl, howl. And it's like, oh, I'm terribly sorry, sir. Oh, well, can't be helped. But just his delivery, I could go on about Blackadder. I really could.
Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie.
I could quote the hell out of Blackadder. Well, the series 2 to series 4, not so much the first series. I've not really dabbled in the first series because I know it's not as good as the later series, but I digress again.
Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie are honestly a gift to this world.
I mean, I really do appreciate when you get like a combination of two actors who just work so well together. And another case examples, should I say, is Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh in The Road to El Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
That's another film I can quote the hell out of because I adore that film. Yes, some of the messages, like some of the themes might be questionable these days, but the comedy that comes off the two of them, it's same goes with Laurel and Hardy. I adore Laurel and Hardy. And even down to Eartha Kitt and Patrick Warburton in Emperor's New Groove. Mm-hmm. Those two just work so well.
Well, that's like Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles would, like, a lot of their comedy was a lot of the comedy in that movie it's not very kid friendly, number one, and it's definitely it's offensive. But like, it was not that it was meant to be offensive, but it was kind of showcasing a lot of the racial tension and issues of the day and age, and especially not only in the time that it was filmed, but also the time the film is set. But some of the comedy in that is just golden, and it's like an equal opportunity offender, like all across the board. Like everyone was offended, everyone from the Germans all the way down to African Americans, some Jewish people, which Mel Brooks is. I said it. Ha ha ha. Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks being Jewish, like he made so many Jewish jokes, and just on and on and on. But yeah, like movies like that, they are offensive, but a lot of them are really funny.
Yeah, I know a lot of people said that about the Monty Python films, and
Yeah.
not that type of humor is not for everybody, but I was essentially raised on the classics,
Same.
so I I appreciate kind of like a good comedy.
Mhm.
I sound so pretentious when I say that, and I
I
know.
appreciate a good
You
comedy.
do.
It's got to be high quality content, though. I can't have any of this low par stuff. No fart jokes for me.
Can I get a Pinot Grigio, please?
Look, I just think it's really funny that we just said no fart jokes, and then, like, literally 2 episodes ago, we had Mick. And that was pretty much a giant fart joke. And that in and of itself, that description was a
Oh.
fart joke. So you're welcome.
Yes.
It's silly. But yeah, we're like for me, I started writing as a kid. I turned in some stories to my teachers and stuff like that. They liked them. But I never really did anything outside of that. I had some in like notebooks, ideas for some. I would write character descriptions and things like that. But I didn't fully start writing fan fiction until probably I want to say about 5 years ago.
Mm.
And so I had started writing fan fiction for Harry Potter, which I still have it up on like my fan fiction account and my AO3 account. And I also write fan fiction for like Red Dead Redemption.
Mm.
No. Really? No. I would
No.
never have known. I didn't even think you liked that game. How dare you? If you liked that game, name 3 ships.
Oh my god. The ship of me kicking your butt.
Oh, kinky. You gonna choke me too?
Oh
Yes.
God.
But yeah, like I first started writing for Harry Potter, and most of the first things that I kind of wrote for it were simple little fluff stories, just kind of getting my style. And the last 2 things that I had written, the last 4 things that I had written were a little bit different than what I had started out, because I think that I had figured out where I wanted to go. Um, and then after that, I had just started writing for Red Dead,
Mm.
just sort of because I really liked the story, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to write a story, and so I wrote one, and it took me a while, and you we know it. Jackie's she's waxed poetically about it. Um, and I've written a couple of other things as well. But yeah, it's just whenever I write, I try to make sure that I'm not writing something that I feel like insults my reader's intelligence. I know that I'm probably not the most popular writer. I just write for fun, but I also write
Mm.
to make sure that I'm not insulting anybody's intelligence and things like that. Like that
Yeah.
things are clear, but they're also
I'm
complex.
insulted. You're too smart for me.
I'm not. I try not to write anything like terribly smart.
Exactly. It's too smart for me. I need you to dumb it down even further. Break out the crayons.
I do try to incorporate into the Red Dead stories if I do something, because the idea for I have some ideas for other stories that center around things that were actually laws in the United States. So, like the Comstock law, the whole reason why Abigail got pregnant was because, they had outlawed condoms in the 1800s. And so, yeah, that's the whole reason why everybody back then had like 18 kids, because there was herbal remedies for birth control, but nobody could afford to have, like whatever version of condoms that they had in the 1800s. I don't remember exactly why, but yeah, that was a
Put a
thing.
sponge up there, maybe.
No, they didn't have sponges. It was more of like a douche with
Oh,
like a
Lord.
chemical.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Or,
Did
the tried and true pull-out king.
so hang on. So what you're saying is John Marston's pullout game is weak.
Yes.
Or whoever is actually the father. Someone's pullout game is weak.
It was Gavin, obviously. But yeah, it's
So wait, that's where Gavin went. He just went to get milk and cigarettes. He'll be back eventually.
He didn't like his job at the post office.
oh but yeah, and the I do write for a ship. I do write Arthur Tilley stories.
Hell
And
yeah.
there's not a whole lot of them, but myself and my friend Alicia, we write for it because we want to see more stories that feature, interracial couples, because it's not to say that it's like bad if that's the kind of stories that you want, with, characters that are of the same race going out with characters of the same race, but it does get kind of tiring when, if the main character is white, their love interest is always another white person.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd like to see more, representation of like interracial couples, whether that's you know um, white and Hispanic, white and black, white and indigenous, white and Asian, just more representation of that, especially if it's like an LGBT couple,
Mm-hmm.
like there's Arthur and Charles.
Mm.
Um, in that, or which is, I think, is really cool. I really like their stories, though some of
Mm.
them, I tried to stay away from some that are a little bit too questionable to me, where they
Mm-hmm.
where they make Charles's character a little bit too aggressive when he's
Mm-hmm.
pretty chill.
Yeah.
I think,
um,
honestly, I think one of the reasons why, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think one of the reasons why we don't see quite as many people um, writing interracial couples is, I mean, well, obviously, white people are a majority, and I
mhm.
think a lot of them may be too scared to write interracial couples because, I mean, the simple fact is, much like we were talking about earlier with the Mary Sues, you don't want to what am I looking for here? You don't
um,
want you don't
White,
want to write a very you don't want to whitewash them.
yeah, and you don't want to write a white savior type story.
No.
Exactly. And like me personally, the book that I'm writing, I would love, absolutely love to make all of my like main characters, I would love to write them as BIPOC. I would love to write them as any kind of colored like people. But I'm so absolutely terrified to do so because I don't want to accidentally get it wrong because I am not a person of color. And
Mm-mm.
so, especially with my upbringing, which I've talked about in full, of the subtle racism that happened, you don't know what has crossed over into your subconscious that you don't realize is wrong until it's out there. And so, like, that's one of the reasons that holds me personally back. And that's not an excuse. It's not anything like that. It's, I don't want to feel like I'm whitewashing anything. And I also don't want to feel like I'm trying to include myself where I don't belong because I don't. And that's
Mm.
not what it is. But at the same time, I think if you do see what it's going to take for this kind of thing, interracial couples in art, in media, to be more normal, is if more white people started writing them properly, not whitewashing, not white savioring, not any of that. But that's what it's going to take because, for the sole fact of, we are the majority.
Yeah. Like, the best advice from any for anyone that wants to write outside of their own race, like if you are a writer that is white and you want to write a story that has people of color in it or as a main character, and you want to make them complex and believable and not just sounding boards, talk. Do your research, talk to
Mm.
people, talk to other writers, mostly talk to people of color writers,
Mm-hmm.
to ask their opinions and things like that. And I know some people would be like, well, I don't know any. It was just like, well, the internet is free. The internet,
Exactly.
I mean, it's not free. You have to pay for it because, subscriptions and all that. But no, I mean, it's right there. If you had a question, you can always just put it up. Like, is there anybody that I can ask that is a BIPOC that would be able to help me? I'm writing a story, and you would talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a writer that I follow. She's a Asian American writer, and Twitter has the writing section of Twitter has a thing where you can pitch your story. Um, it's like a week of pitches. So you'll pitch the general summary of your story, and you would tag it, with the hashtag for that pitch. And if somebody liked it, usually publishers will go through, and if they like it, they'll reblog it, and then they'll probably message you. So that's a heads up for you, Jackie. I keep forgetting. I think it's coming up. It usually takes place near the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a woman who had written a story about fire dancers, which is a traditional role in Hawaii and Polynesia and Samoan cultures. Like, and the women would do hula, the men would fire dance. It's kind of like men would do haka and women would do a different dance. And so she had written a story where it was a girl who wanted to be a fire dancer. She didn't want to do hula. But the thing is, though, is that this woman was writing it where the girl is basically a Hawaiian native, but she's white. And the writer is white, and the girl wanted to essentially do fire dancing, which is a traditionally boys type deal, because that is something that is hula and fire dancing are interconnected through, I think it's a story, but I don't remember at the time. I have to research it later. Um, and the guy who was the fire dancer was basically, she had written him as saying that he was a spoiled native Hawaiian, which means that he was not white. He was a person of color, and he was a spoiled rich kid who, and she was like, oh, she wants to. And a lot of people in the comments, especially people who were Hawaiian, were like, yo, that's not okay. But she would ignore their advice, like saying like you can't really do that. Like if the story was compelling in that she's Hawaiian and she's learning about the history of fire dancers and how fire dancing and hula intertwine, and that, like creating like a new tradition, type of deal, like that would be okay as long as you did your research. But you're writing something that's basically you could have just interplaced the other person with just a white guy, and it would just be a made for TV Hollywood, a made for TV Disney Channel after school special type of deal.
Or like we said earlier, a Hallmark special.
Yeah. And she would ignore them. She would just say for everybody else who was like, oh my God, I would totally read this. My daughter would love it. And she's like, oh, well, thank you. And then the message underneath would be something like, hey, I think that your book might be problematic because you are essentially erasing a tradition that is native to Hawaiian people before, whites came over and colonized the island. And she's like, I'm ignoring you. Everybody else is fine. Like you don't want that's not a good look.
No.
That's not a good look. Like
No.
basically do your research. If somebody who is a person of color tells you that that story is problematic in the fact that you may have something in there with like tropes or stereotypes, or your characters are coming off as just a sounding board, or your main character is all fleshed out but your side
Basically,
characters,
you don't want to create someone who ends up being, for lack of a better term, the token black guy. Where, and where that saying comes from was back when everything was still like separated and rules started changing and laws started changing, they couldn't exclude black people. And so they would put one black person. And if you go back and you watch a lot of the, especially like in the 70s and 80s, you'll see it a lot. There's one, maybe two, if they show this one person's family, then you'll get like a couple of them, but you'll have the token black guy. And that and a perfect example of that, and I don't if you are under the age of 18, I do not recommend you watch this movie, but it's not another teen movie because they're making fun of these tropes, and they have one black guy in the, I'm pretty sure, the entire movie, and his name is token black guy. But yeah, that's where that kind of stuff comes from. And he has like 3 lines that he says, and he just repeats them over and over. And one of them is, "That's whack." And because that was the stereotype at the time. But going on the subject of stereotypes for a second. So I was at one point I was doing research for an article that I was going to write for the gamers, and unfortunately that kind of fell through because of, well, life happened. But in researching why like stereotypes are harmful is when your media is presented to the world, if you take a bunch of people that don't know about a particular culture, they are going to draw from the information they know. Well, if the information they know is from movies, books, TV shows, etc., and it's all focusing on, say, for the topic of conversation, we'll just say African Americans, and all they know are the stereotypes of African Americans, well, you've just taken those stereotypes and implanted that into another person's head. And now they're not going to know that this is a stereotype. This is not true.
Yeah.
That is why it's important to break out of those stereotypes, and why communicating with the actual community is important. Not to steal your words here, just kind of interjecting with that. But yeah, it's incredibly important because, well,
Yeah, it's I think I saw somebody say a quote, it's There was a quote that I had seen where someone was like, it's our job as a, it's our job as a community to look around and see who's not present. And, you don't see a lot of people who are disabled and stay disabled in stories.
Hmm.
You don't see a lot of people that enter into interracial relationships and they stay in that relationship in stories. Usually what ends up happening is that those characters break up and the writer places that person of color with another person of color because it makes more sense in their mind. Very
Hmm.
rarely do stories end with like a white person and a person of color together
Well,
and happy.
another good example of that, I saw a quote of this as well, is every time you see a a gay couple or anyone from the LGBTQ plus,
Mhm.
it's either their happy ending comes at the last 15 minutes or they get their happy ending and then one of them dies. Very
Yeah.
rarely do you
The
see
kill the gays trope.
exactly, very rarely from start to finish do you see a love story come to fruition and end with a full-on happy ending from start to finish unless it is within the last 15 minutes.
And I don't know if this is a stereotype. It's something that I've noticed in whatever representation that there usually is in media, usually through, well, case in point in the UK, like UK soap operas, is if there is a gay couple, specifically same-sex female couple, there's
Mhm.
always one partner who is desperate for a child.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a stereotype. It's normally like a rinse repeat. Like you could always tell if there's going to be a gay lesbian couple in any form of media. Chances are one's desperate for a kid.
That's yeah, that's a lot of
It
it.
does it does it doesn't feel right. No.
It goes along with the whole women's whole job is to bear children. But
No.
on the other aspect of that, kind of playing off of that, is people with mental illnesses.
Mhm.
And you brought it up as well with people with disabilities. So people with mental illnesses, 9 times out of 10, the closest you'll see in film is a woman who is either psychotic and or I say woman, but a person who is psychotic, or you see a woman who is bundled up in a blanket eating a pint of ice cream, or you see someone sitting in a room alone crying, or something like that. Like we don't get the true representation of what mental illness is. And there was a show that came out. I don't even remember. I refuse to watch it. I can't even tell you the name of it now. But it featured a doctor that was supposedly bipolar. And whenever she was like off the clock, she basically went around and had sex with everybody. Now, that is an aspect of being bipolar, is like when you're manic, you make poor choices, very
Yeah.
impulse decisions, and all this. So, hypersexuality is an aspect, but that is not all of it.
Yeah.
And so it's things like that where they either hypersexualize or hype up the fear factor of
Mhm.
mental illness. That's where I draw the line, and that's what makes me angry about it. And it's yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a difference between writing, well, let's say Michael Myers, for instance. When Michael Myers is written, Michael Myers is obviously he's a psychopath, but um their iterations of him is that he's somebody who may be schizophrenic and just undiagnosed or maybe diagnosed. And so writing him is that, okay, he's obviously the bad guy. There's no real redemption for him for this character. And of course, fan fiction, some people do write redemption, Michael Myers fix. But there's a difference between that writing, let's say, a slasher who obviously has issues, to writing a character who is like bipolar or has schizophrenia or may have, depression or anxiety, and just kind of upping it to where it's unbelievable,
Mm-hmm.
just completely and totally unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you're just like, which makes it more problematic for people that are schizophrenic or have depression or anxiety or any other mental illness. And they're just like, that's not how I am. Maybe that might be how I am on really bad days, but that's not how I am usually. And
It also scares people into not wanting to talk about it. And
yeah,
so you force a lot of people to suffer in silence. You force a lot of people to stay in the closet. You force a lot of people to not write outside their genre
yeah,
when you do stuff like that. And it there is there there is true power, and it is a bad one. So you have to be very careful, because I remember, okay, perfect example, and this is a real life one. This isn't like a fan fiction or a story. A few years ago, when I say a while ago, you guys may remember the woman that she drowned all of her children,
hmm,
and it came out that she had postpartum depression. And so I know quite a few friends that had kids and they had really bad postpartum depression. And whenever they mention that, it's that woman's case is thrown in their faces every single time of, oh, you had postpartum depression? Well, we must do something because we don't want you to drown your babies. Like, no, like that is the worst case scenario. That is very,
yeah,
very untreated, very, very, you know, that's the worst case scenario that you can have. But that doesn't mean that every single person that is bipolar, or every single person that's schizophrenic, or every single person that has postpartum depression will do these things.
yeah,
It's one of those things of, this person did these things, but they also just so happen to be insert whatever here, or
Yeah.
have insert whatever here. So
Yeah.
yeah, like stereotypes hurt everybody. It doesn't matter religion, race, sexuality, mental state, physical state. It hurts everybody.
yeah,
Basically, what we're saying is, if you decide to write something, just to kind of summarize it, if you decide to write something and it's outside of your everyday life, research before you do it.
yeah. Like that should be something that, like, of course everybody learned in school. If you're gonna write a paper, you got to research it. The same thing goes with stories. It's a lot easier now to find resources and things
Hmm.
like that. Not to say that it wasn't in the past, because you had access to libraries and archives and all kinds of other stuff. So you could go to a library and find a book on what you needed. But now, besides going to libraries, you have things in your hand. So there's internet archives of like works, and there's Google, the search engine. There's Bing as well. But there's all kinds of research and materials that have now, and also just talking to people as well.
Mm.
Like just talking to people, and finding somebody who's not going to be like, yes, that's correct. Yes, absolutely. And, as a beta, which is a beta is somebody who will pre-read your stuff and give you feedback. Usually it's best to have two or three. And if you
Hmm.
can't find two or three, then one trusted friend who will read your story and give their opinion. Like, I think this is good, but I think that you should change this part because I don't think that it makes sense in terms with the story. I am my own beta. I I will write something, and then I would set text to speech and I will listen to it. And if something didn't sound right as this text to speech program is reading it, I will pause it and I'll go to that section and I'd reread it and then I'd change it. And so that's why it takes me a while to get stories out, because I'm self-editing.
it's a process, and it's not as easy as some people would think.
No, it's very mentally taxing.
Yeah.
It's very, because you're basically creating a whole new world in your head and trying to get that on paper, and like maintaining that from start to finish is incredibly mentally draining.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then on that aspect of it, if you're giving advice, make sure, or if you're giving criticism, I should say, make it constructive criticism. Like,
Yeah.
if you genuinely care and you want them to do good, um, give constructive criticism. Don't just tear them down. Make it good criticism. Like, well, I really like the idea you have, but maybe you should try doing it this way, and here's why.
Mhm.
Like, this
Mhm.
is not a time for you to use them to write the story you wanted to write. That kind of
Mhm.
thing. Like that kind of, that doesn't help anybody. If you want to write a story
Mhm.
or you want to do anything, and you don't like the way a certain person has done it, and that's the only reason you don't like it, then do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have gone very far over, which, I mean, we always do, and we're always shocked about it. It's like, I don't understand. But we could honestly keep talking about subjects like this for hours at a time and it's never run out of points.
Yeah.
And then everyone falls silent. Thanks, guys. We could keep talking about it. Chirp, 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 chirp. All right, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody, I guess ever wants to read any of our stuff, um, Jackie's Jackie's Willy Wonka persona. Is it for would it count as a fursona? No, it would be a candy sona. Yeah, candy sona. That's what I'm gonna call people who write Willy Wonka fan fiction. What's your candy sona, Jackie?
Come with me, and you'll be
I'd
in
like for
a
you to sit
world
on
of
my
pure
candy cane and twirl.
imagination.
And if you want to read Nicola's like, please don't read my supernatural fan fiction. If you want
Oh.
to read Nicola's supernatural fan fiction, or if you want to read any of my old stuff, any of my Harry Potter stuff, or any of my Red Dead stuff, just leave us a comment or something. You know, we'll share a link if you want to read. If you want to read it.
I don't know if I could find.
You
I
should
don't know if I
probably,
could.
if it's
It's
so long
gone.
ago, yeah, if it's gone, it's
It's
gone.
gone.
But
It's gone.
Jackie can tell you about it.
Honestly, I probably couldn't. I don't remember.
Well, she should be able to tell you about her current book that she's writing, because it's really, really cool. It's really good. I really enjoy it, and I'm really excited about it. And I hope pretty soon that it's published, so then we can be like, look what Jackie did. Look what she did, everyone, and
Look it.
share it. Yeah.
But
And
yeah.
yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm kind of working on some writing stuff for myself, just some short stories for the Red Dead fandom, but I was also thinking about um self-publishing, maybe some short stories that I have.
You
But I
better.
don't know yet.
If any of the three of us deserve to be published, it's you.
Oh Jesus, oh no.
You
Yeah, I
goddess
have
amongst mortals.
I took a intro to fan fiction, not fan fiction. I took an intro to fiction class last semester, and we had to put together three short stories and then revise them and turn them in as a final portfolio. So I have three stories that I wrote and a couple of more that are basically like drafts, drafts of stories that I can turn into short stories. And so I was like, I could probably just put these together, maybe, and just like kind of self-publish it. I don't know.
Do
But
it.
yeah, do it.
Do it. Just do it.
But yeah, definitely if you want to hear any more of us talking about writing, just leave a comment as always, and we will see you guys in the next episode. We will see
Oh,
you
real
folks.
quick. Two things. One, don't
Yeah.
forget to go and check out Mick so you can find out information about the play that he's got going on. Show as much support as you can. And
Mhm.
also, you were talking earlier about your friend's podcast. Why don't you throw out their name so we all know where to go follow?
Oh, her name is Gopher.
Another gopher?
Nicola.
Another gopher, yeah. Her name is Gopher Gal. She does not publish her stuff through Anchor. It's on YouTube.
Mhm.
So yeah, Gopher Gal on YouTube. She's got her first episode up. I hope that she puts up more episodes. Hopefully by the time that this episode come out, she might have another episode up and going. But yeah, she's a really nice gal.
Hey, we
And
should go.
There's
We should go
there,
be a guest.
there, there's another gopher.
yeah, there's another Gopher.
Well,
Gopher
there's only
Gopher
one thing
Gal.
we're gonna have to do, and that's put you two in an arena and let you fight to the death.
I'd lose.
But yeah, I'll probably remind myself, and I can probably share this. I'll probably share this on our little chat that we got. Um, I'll share her introduction thing. Sorry.
Our introductory episode.
Yeah, I'll show her. I'll share her introductory episode to our little Facebook chat so you guys can listen to it. Yeah,
Yay.
she's really nice. She talks about her OCs and her pets and all kinds of stuff.
Anyway, we were signing off. So yeah, now go
Yeah.
check out Mick. Go check out that. Ask us about our writing, especially Nicola. Like, oh my God, Nicola definitely, absolutely direct all of
No.
your questions to Nicola.
She's got a really good story that she's planning on writing, that she's been talking to us about, and we're like, do it. Do
We're like,
it.
I've been talking about it for like 84 years,
You
and
have.
Really
my
have.
my thumb is still up my ass about it. So
You can, the best part about having your thumb up your ass though, you have a phone that can also do text to speech. So,
I never thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can literally like I do it sometimes. I'll click the little microphone and I'll just start talking and it'll write it down on like a little sheet. And
you're
so
like,
I
hey
have
Google, I have an idea. Please make a memo.
Google, I have an idea for a story. Story is two men find two men find each other in the mountains and they fall in love over a journey to destroy a terrible buck. I don't know.
They're on their way to destroy a perfume bottle in the shape of dog
Oh
shit.
God, for
And they end up in
God's sake.
Antarctica.
And
No,
they decide,
it takes place in Antarctica.
yeah.
See?
Oh, it takes place in Antarctica because they were both running away from a terrible spray bottle, from a terrible
So they're
perfume
cats.
bottle. Yes.
Two gay cats make their way to Antarctica.
It's a warrior spin-off. It's werecats. They can turn into
it's like the
cats.
owl and the pussycat went to sea.
They can
In a
turn into
beautiful
cats.
pea green boat.
Yeah. So there we go. They can turn into cats. There you go, Nicola. Another story under your belt. You are
Oh,
welcome.
oh meow.
Anyway, with all of that, whatever that was, being said, we will see you all next week. And who knows? We may have something exciting coming up next week.
Woo! Something
Meow.
exciting.
Meow.
We can't talk
Meow.
about it because it's a surprise.
It's
But
a
yeah,
secret.
it's a super secret.
Super secrets.
But yeah, well, we'll see you guys in the next one. And bye. That's it. Stay warm, stay safe. I was thinking about something and I was like, no, besides our live streams and stuff like that, that was pretty much it. That's the only things that we had, like live stream Friday, live stream Saturday. Check them out. But
Be
yeah,
there, be square.
be there, be square or octangular. But yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Tatty bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Around the Campfire. We'd also like to thank Brett Van Dossel for providing the music. You can find him and his music at brettvandossel.com. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at CameoGang1899. We're also on Instagram at Around the Campfire 1899. You can find us on YouTube at Around the Campfire Podcast. See you around, cowpokes.